Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year 2021. I'm Cameron Stephen, the guy that's bouncing back from a brain injury, who has to work on myself every day to find balance after everything I've been exposed to in my life. Today I'd like to talk about a little biography about myself and how we can bounce back from the craziest things that's happened to us all in our lives, because everybody's been through their own journeys and have been exposed to all kinds of things. But I'd like to just talk a little bit about some of the things I went through and how to bounce back from it. My mother, she's very smart and she skipped a grade. And when she's 17, she lived in Toronto. She moved to Newfoundland. And she met my father, who I've never met before, and she got pregnant. And he took off on her, and she was in Newfoundland all by herself. And instead of going home to Toronto to her mom, my grandmother, she decided to go to Halifax, where she didn't know one person. Pregnant. Very scary. I mean, she must have been going through a lot in her life. And when she got to Halifax, she didn't know anybody, she didn't have a job or anything, and she'd put me in a foster home when I was born. And then she got straightened out a little bit with her life, and she went back and got me from the judge. And then I ended up having a surgery when I was an infant, and I had a cancerous mole removed from my back. Big scar, actually. And and I ended up dropping a grandfather clock on my head when I was an infant toddler. And I'm sure that rung my bell. And then I ended up splitting my finger wide open. My mother had a roommate. She also had a son around my age, and apparently she left the razors on the side of the bathtub, and I was in there by myself and cut my finger wide open. And so I got stitches. And then, when I was a toddler, I was about maybe around 2 years old. And I tried to jump from my crib to my mother's bed. And I missed and broke my leg. There's some more trauma. My mother had met my stepfather, and he actually came into my life, and he taught me how to go to the washroom, so I didn't have to go to the bathroom in my diapers, right? So he's the one that spent there the whole night and left me on the toilet, so I learned how to go to the bathroom. And we lived in Mount Uniacke for a while, and I had a couple experiences there. And then we had moved to Fall River, and when we went to Fall River, my stepfather was a singer. He worked at a TV station too, as well, and my mother, I think, was she working at the post office at the point? I'm not sure. But I was about 5 and a half, 6, and we moved to Fall River, and I remember my mother and stepfather were going out for the night, and they had got a babysitter, and the babysitter just lived up the hill from me. It's a 20-year-old guy, and he had told me that I could stay up late and watch TV. Well, when a kid hears that, you just, yeah, sure, you're all excited, right? Anyways, I stayed up late of watching, what show was I watching? The one about the German Shepherd. Anyways, I ended up dozing off, and I got startled, and I felt a hand on my penis and balls, and I looked down and seen this giant hand on my penis and balls, and I lost it. Freaked out, screamed, ran to my room, shut the door, put all the toys against it, tell him to stay away. The babysitter was knocking on my door and trying to plead with me to talk to him, and I was just screaming. I couldn't even handle myself. And I ended up falling asleep. And the next morning, he had never said nothing to my mom. And I woke up and I went on, not said one word. You know, when you're a kid and you go through something like this, you don't want to tell anybody. You just keep it sealed inside, right? And I didn't say anything until the next time, maybe a month or two later. My mom was going out again with my stepfather, and she said, well, I'm going to call this 20-year-old guy's, she said his name. And I just lost it and cried and bawled and said, no, I don't want to go through it again. And my mom would only have been probably, maybe she was 23 or 24. And she called the IWK. And the IWK came and see me, and they had little dolls and did this little skit. And that's about all I can remember from that experience. And then my sister was born when I was 7. And wow, I was so proud. My little sister, I was so excited. And you know, at school they have the show and tell. Well, I brought my sister because I was so proud of her to show and tell, and that was a great experience. I remember it was just amazing. And I remember my mother taking me to T-ball, and she was the coach. And that was a pretty good experience. And then all of a sudden, my stepfather and my mother started getting into a bad relationship, and my sister, my mom, and me, we left, and we moved to Fairview, to low rentals, to like apartment buildings. And I remember when I went there, there's all these kids in the neighborhood. And I went out, and I'm the new kid, and I ended up getting, they all jumped me and beat me up, and they were beating me with the hockey gloves on and stuff, and I was like, for something I didn't even do, and it traumatized me, and I wanted to toughen myself up. There's other things that happened to me. There's so much to my journey that's happened to me, but I don't got time to say it all. So other things were happening to me. I want to toughen myself up, and I ended up going into judo. And you know, when you're a kid, you just want to toughen yourself up. And at that time, when I was at this apartment in Fairview, my mom had this woman from Newfoundland stay. And I didn't know her. She had an accent, Newfoundland accent. And my sister was only really young, and we went to a recreational center. They had pools there, had a pool there. And my mom and my sister were off somewhere because my sister was only very young, maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years old. And the woman that was staying with my mom, the Newfoundland accent, she was in the pool with me. We were playing. I was in a rubber dinghy, and we're laughing. She's splashing water and stuff, and then she put her foot right up my shorts. It was rubbing my penis and balls, and laughing like it was funny. And I just started freaking out and screaming because I've already experienced something like this. I didn't say anything to my mom. Right? I just let it go. And that's the thing, that all you parents, is when things happen to kids, you don't want to say anything. You hold it in, right? So you have to ask questions and have some awareness to things that are going on, because you might not even know, and it might be someone that you wouldn't expect to do that. So as time went on, my mom met another woman, and she had a son, and we ended up moving in with them, and it was still in Fairview, but a little further down. And I remember I got a bike, and I was so excited I got the bike, and then it was stolen from me. So I didn't like that. And I remember I was grade 3, and I had made my mom really upset. Now, my mother was a really emotional person. Got a huge heart, but she was very emotional. And so when she got upset, she got really emotional. And I remember she was driving me to daycare, and I had done something that made her upset. And it was her birthday, and I felt so bad that I would have been probably about 8 years old, and I was in grade 3. And she dropped me off at the daycare, and she was really upset. She worked at the post office, and it was about 10 kilometers away. And she dropped me off the daycare. When I went to go to school, I just kept on walking. Now, 8 years old, walking downtown Halifax, 10 kilometers. I don't even know how I made it there, but I made it to the post office, and I was bawling and crying. the security guys, they couldn't even understand me, and I was looking for my mom, and it got all better. Anyway, she gave me a big hug, and it was all good. And she met this guy, and he was a good man. And they got pretty close. And he wanted to take us to Spring Hill and show us Spring Hill, what it was like, and we ended up going there for a visit. And we went to 5 Islands and Bay of Fundy. And there's a bunch of kids there, and they all go, because the tide goes out, and they all go on this this old guy. He had a horse and buggy, and he would take you out to a weir. They call it a weir. It's like a bunch of nets that when the ocean's in, when the tide's in, you know, all the fish is there. When the tide goes out, there's like little pools of water that the fish get stuck in, and the kids just love going on this buggy to go pick up these fish. So we were all there. I went along. It was all fun. We were playing in the puddles of water and getting flanders, I think, or different kinds of fish anyway. And on the way back, it was probably about 9, maybe close to 10, close to 10 by this time. And on the way back in the buggy, the horse and buggy, the old guy said, "You can sit beside me in the front." And I said, "Yeah." And on the way home, he had put his hand down my pants. And I'm like, I don't know how this stuff kept happening to me. And when I got home, I actually told my mother this time, right off the hop, and we had left. And it kind of went away. I never thought about it anymore. I thought, but I think it bothered me later on. But we got pretty close with this man, and we ended up moving to Spring Hill. And my mom and my stepfather, they got married, and they bought a house in Spring Hill. And on the way to Spring Hill, we got a trailer and put all their stuff in it, and they had a truck, small truck. And when we were moving to Spring Hill, loaded full of stuff, the trailer went off the road, and it ended up flipping the truck right over. And I was in the back of the truck with my sister, and she's only 3. And there's all kinds of bikes and everything in there, and I covered over top first so I could protect her from all the bikes and everything. She didn't get hurt. It was kind of a traumatized thing, being kids. And we ended up to Spring Hill, and I remember meeting my best friend there, and I ended up hitting him in the head with a crab apple. And I ran away from him, and he chased me, and then he said, "Why are you running from him?" Anyways, we become best friends, and it's a good experience. And I ended up getting into wrestling, and I was only like in grade 5 when I started. But I was starting to make these changes in my life. You know, you hit puberty and different things. But I remember I was still sensitive. And I was about 13, and one of my neighbors 2 doors down, I was making fun of him because he was grounded. And when I got back from making fun, me and another guy, and when I went home, I ended up getting knocked down the porch steps. It's probably 3 or 4 steps, and I got knocked down them. And it broke my heart. Yeah, it really broke my heart. And I'm like, that's it. I'm really going to toughen myself up now. So I got really heavy into the wrestling. Got focused in it. And, you know, you're going through puberty, making your changes in your life. And I started drinking when I was 15. And ended up getting all the skin burned off my back. When I was drunk, I was by my other neighbor that's right beside my house. And I went and got drunk with everybody, and I was so drunk. My mother was calling for me, and all the other kids were drinking too, and they didn't want me to go home to my mom and see me all loaded drunk, so they tried to sober me up and put me in a bathtub with cold water and turned it on full blast. Well, it was hot water, and it ended up burning the skin off my back. And then they took me over to my mom's and loaded drunk, and I ended up digging up gravel the next day to teach me a lesson. But that didn't teach me a lesson. I just kept drinking and partying after that, more so. And maybe because of all the experience I had in my life or whatever, I just started going against my mom. I started drinking and partying and running away from home and not coming home and getting myself in all kinds of trouble. But I was getting pretty good at wrestling, and I was won the provincials and won a bunch of different tournaments. And I remember that I was going to do a demonstration at the Amherst Mall. And I was 15, and we were doing demonstration. Size doesn't matter. My fellow wrestler was 230, 240 pounds, and I was like 100 pounds, 120 pounds. And we're showing size didn't matter. Well, size doesn't matter, because I did a head and arm on him, trying to show size doesn't matter. He rolled off my shoulder and ended up breaking my leg in 3 places. Excruciating pain. Ended up being going to the hospital and getting a cast up to my hip, and I was in a wheelchair for a while. And it doesn't matter what happens to you. You can't ever give up. Because I came back from that when I healed, maybe 5 or 6 months or longer. And I come back and I won the Atlantic Championships for wrestling. So all the Atlantic provinces. And I got a gold medal. And because I got a gold medal Atlantic Championships, I went to the Nationals. And I got a silver medal. And, but I was really trying to get in trouble all the time, and I was drinking and partying. And my mother tried to straighten me out, and she sent me to a wrestling club in Montreal. Victor Zilberman, the best wrestling coach, I thought, in Canada. And it was a great experience. I went there, and I didn't know any French, and they wanted me to take French school, and I really didn't know any. But the wrestling was good. I was learning a lot. And I ended up living with a wrestler that got a bronze medal in the Olympics. And he was 24. And I was 17, almost 18. And we lived in a real bad end of town. And we had like a propane stove, and we had cockroaches, and we didn't have an elevator. It was all stairs. And when I come down the stairs, there would be like this guy there with a trench coat on and watches and different things in his pockets trying to sell things. So it was a pretty bad end of town. And it was a real struggle for me. And I remember going to this Olympian that I lived with and say, you know, does wrestling pay off? And he goes, I love the sport of wrestling, I truly do. He said, I'm 24 and I got a bronze medal Olympics, and I'm living with you and you're 17. So I don't feel like it pays back. And this is before the UFC and Ultimate Fighting and stuff like that. So there really wasn't nothing for wrestlers to do at this point in my life, or his actually. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do something else. And I left, and I went to Sackford, New Brunswick. And when I went to Sackford, New Brunswick, I was going to high school. And every time I drank and partied, I don't get fights, right? I was a pretty good wrestler, and I could stand up for myself. And I had kind of a chip because I was a baby face, and I just wasn't taking shit off anybody. And I got in some scraps there, and I said, this isn't for me. I'm going to work because we're really poor growing up and stuff, and I just want to make money, and I actually want to be able to take care of my sister and my mother. So I went with a couple of friends, and I went out to Seismic in Calgary. And I remember starting the first job. And the first job that I started, we were northern Alberta. And we were doing heli-portable. The helicopter would take us and drop us off, and we'd walk in snow up to our armpits, freezing cold. Our sandwiches would be frozen. We'd have to heat them up over the fire. to eat, and we'd be there for like 15, 16 hours. And I remember there would be like maybe 50 people that were on this crew. And we were losing like 5 to 10 people a week. That's how bad the job was. And we stayed, all the Maritimers, we stayed. And I ended up going from seismic crew to seismic crew. And I ended up getting in an accident, and I rolled a four-wheeler over my back and really messed it up. I couldn't walk or couldn't do anything, broke my teeth. And I was on compensation, and I had met my the love of my life, and we had an apartment in Alberta, and she was working seismic too. She was a clerk, and I was on compo, and we were only 19 at this point in our lives, and we ended up breaking up, and she went back to New Brunswick, and I tried to go work on the oil rigs. You make lower money, it's more dangerous, but you're in one spot, so you can kind of have a life, kind of. So I was thinking. I went there, and there ended up being a bunch of people from Spring Hill there that I knew, and you know, it was quite an experience. But I started hurting myself on the oil rigs. And the first time was when you're twisting pipe when you're on the oil rigs. It's very powerful, you know, 1,000 meters of pipe, so the power to twist this in. And I was something called bushings that keep the pipe in line when they're putting the pipe in. So when you're pushing these bushings out, they're really heavy, probably 200 pounds, and you're on both sides, and you kind of have like a lever that can kind of pull it out. Well, the driller, he used to love to drink, and he had a little buzz on, and he wasn't looking at the, he wasn't dealing with any of the devices or twisting the pipe or anything. He was off to the side. So when I was pulling these bushes out, he was drunk, and he hit the control lever, and it didn't twist the pipe, and it pulled me in and twisted me around twice, threw me back like 15 feet. I go down this V door, like this ramp, slide down, almost killed me. I was really scared the shit out of me. It was a crazy experience. And I still stayed and still worked. And you know, because when we got on our time off and had our time to party and stuff, I would party the whole time. So I'd keep going to the rigs because I was making good money. And then I had a whole bunch of pipes roll down and almost hit me in the head, hit me in the shoulder, and that didn't stop me. And then this third time I really got hurt was we were twisting in pipe. We were kind of have a competition. And I ended up getting my thumb caught up in there, and it crushed it in 3 places, like a flat. Very, very painful. The bone was sticking out of my skin. And then I took a break from the oil rigs. I said, it's time to take a break. And I was on compensation for a little while, and I ended up going to New Brunswick. And I ended up going to CBC College, computer college. And I was known to be quite a scrapper. You know, I learned boxing from one of the guys on the rigs, and I was a really good wrestler. So I could fight pretty good, and I liked to party, and I mean, I must have had a chip because my stepfather left. I never met my dad, and you know, these different things happen. So I think I had a chip on my shoulders, and every time I got drunk and partied, if anybody gave me any kind of trouble, I would fight back. And I'm getting caught up in those currents, so every time I partied and stuff, I'd get in trouble. And this one time, I was going to ABC College, and I'm out partying, and I got invited back to a party at a trailer, and I ended up fighting this one really tough guy, and I won that fight. But you don't win, because I had carloads of people coming in. They all jumped me, and I had sneaker prints on my face, and they're jumping off my head, and thought I was going to die again. And when I had 4 people with me, and one person got knocked out in the back of the car, the other person ran, the other guy's getting beat up. It wasn't a good scene. And they're waking up in the RCMP car, and they tell me, what happened? I mean, just drive me home. And they said, those are some pretty serious fellas there. If that place burns to the ground, we won't even investigate. So I knew those people must have been getting some trouble, right? So then I said, you know what? I'm not taking that. And I went back, ended up running into one of the guys and ended up getting a fight with him. Actually, I ended up fighting that guy 2 more times. So I was quite of a scrapper, right? I wasn't taking any kind of crap from anybody. And then I ended up saying I was done with the ABC college. I was going to do something else. And I ended up getting a pound of weed. And it came in the mail. And I was like, if this is this easy, I'm moving to Vancouver. And I went to Vancouver, and you know, weed never hurt nobody. And I went to Vancouver to change my life, to make the big money, right? You know, you think you're gonna change your whole life, make lots of money. And I went to Vancouver, and it wasn't good at first. I mean, it was a real struggle for a little while. And then ended up turning it back around and ended up like living like a movie star and making all kinds of money. And it seemed like everything's all great, and this is what I should do. And you know, you feel great. I can send money home to my family. I can take care of this, because I always had a big heart and I love to give to people. So I loved making lots of money, even though I was taking a shortcut to do that. And you just think you're on top of the world. It's like snakes and ladders, right? You get to the top and crash to the bottom. So I kept going through this, going to the top and going to the bottom. And eventually, it all blew up my face. And by this time, I was probably about 25. And the cops were looking for me. And a whole bunch of us got busted, and I got away. And I was on the run for almost 2 years, like 19 months, 18, 19 months. And that was quite a journey on the run, all over Canada, right? So it doesn't matter taking shortcuts, making all kinds of money, boom, it blows up in your face, and you know, then you're trying to survive. So I was on the run all over Canada, trying to survive. A lot of crazy experiences happened to me. But eventually I got caught. And that was another story on its own. And when they caught me, caught me and sent me to Moncton. I was in Moncton remand. And I was in there for 4.5 months. And then I got my charges, and I ended up getting 5 years. And I got it for marijuana and proceeds of crime. So marijuana and money. I think 166,000, 166,000, and I got 5 years for it. Now I know I did a lot of scrapping, but I never had no violence on my record. So when I went to Spring Hill, I ran into a couple people that were in there that I knew, and I wasn't in there that long. I got exhilarated parole because I didn't have any violence on my record. So they'll get you out, I think it's 1/6 of your sentence. They'll let you out on parole. So they let me out on parole. I get on parole, and you know, I'm gonna make some changes in my life, and I end up getting caught up in the currents of life, and I end up getting sent back again for suspicion. And when you're on parole, they can just send you back, and I end up being back for 3 years. And let me tell you, that experience when I went back was a nightmare. I went through a lot of crazy stuff, and that's another story itself as well. So it was like a nightmare. And then I ended up getting through that, and when I got out, I still was on parole. I had about a year left. And I went and started doing landscaping, and I ended up paving. And I ended up taking an excavating course at Masstown. You know, I'm going to change my life. And I was working for this company for a while. So that period of time took me till I was about, I went to jail when I was about 27. And I ended up getting 5 years. So I was, by about 34, I ended up doing my landscaping, and I took my excavating course, and you know, I'm just going to start making some changes in my life, but I've still caught up in currents in my life, right? It's like it doesn't ever leave you. So then I end up running into this love of my life, and went to this hairdressing place and salon. Run into this girl, and just a spark had a spark from her and fall in love with her, and I ended up getting her pregnant. And then I opened up a business because when my daughter was born, I could see my face in her face, and it was the most beautiful love I experienced at this point in my life. And I really wanted to make a change in my life. I got my business going, Romeo's Landscape and Equipment Rentals. And I was going to change my whole life. But me and my daughter's mother, we weren't doing good at this time, and we were breaking up, and I didn't see my daughter for a while, and this really threw me off. So all the drinking and partying that I did, well, I was doing a lot more. I didn't see my daughter for a little while, and it was a nightmare. A lot of crazy things happened in that experience, and I was lost. I was really lost, and lots of fights, and it just wasn't a good time in my life. I was under a tremendous amount of stress from my daughter's mother, from my mother, because I had a house with my mother at this point in my life, and I had about 4 other properties, and my life and exposure of things I was into in my life, I was definitely lost and under tremendous stress with everything happening to me. Everything. All due to myself, right? And I got a cottage in Mount Uniacke, and I started renovating it. And my daughter came back into my life, and I started having her on the weekends. And through the week, I'd still be partying 2 or 3 days in a row. And it wasn't good, but I was so thankful I had my daughter in my life, but my lifestyle had a hold of me. And I started getting really sick. And I was getting really sick that summer. Really, really sick. I needed a change in my life. And my family, my friends, my family doctor was saying, Cameron, there's something seriously wrong with you. You got to go to the hospital. And I said, I'm really sick. I really felt like there was something really wrong with me. So I went, and they told me that I had pneumonia. You know, they took x-rays, they gave me a prescription and sent me on my way. Well, I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. And I went, and they sent me home, and then I actually felt like I was dying. Really felt like I was dying. And I got my friend to take me into the emergency. I said to the doctor, I said, I know my body, there's something seriously wrong with it. And I was sweating, I had the chills, and I had every bad feeling you could imagine. They got my friend to leave. They put the mask on. They said I had meningitis bacterial, very deadly, dangerous stuff that I didn't know about at that time. They gave me these spinal taps, these big needles in my back. Can't move an inch. Very uncomfortable. Felt horrible. And they hydrated me, and they came back saying I had meningitis viral, so it's going to be really weak to go home and let's take his course. Well, I thought I was going to die. I really was that bad. And I left there, and it was terrible. Every day was worse. I thought I was getting closer to my death. And my daughter's birthday is November 17th. Mine's November 16th. And we're having a party for her, a birthday party for her at Hatfield Farms. And I drugged my butt there, and at this point I was really, really, really sick. I seen a friend there that I hadn't seen for a while. He said, he's with his kids, and he said, Cameron, you look like shit. My family said I didn't look good, and I felt like I was dying. Well, the birthday party was a success, all the kids had fun and stuff, and then the boys wanted to have a birthday for me down at the cottage. I agreed. We had it down there. I didn't last very long, I went to bed. And after that, every day I thought it was my last day. When I hit November 20th, the worst day ever in my whole life. I had the shakes, the sweats, the shits, every bad feeling you could possibly imagine, pains. I was in agony. And I had a friend staying with me, taking care of me, because I really could hardly get off the couch. And I got up off the couch, and I went to the bathroom, and when I stood up, I started to shake. Felt this warm water going down my back of my neck. I collapsed. and blacked out. And when I came to, my sister was there. And then I blacked out again, and then the paramedics were there. And I lived at the bottom of a hill, like the bottom of a mountain. It was like 70 stairs at the top. And when I came to, the paramedics were there trying to put me on a stretcher. And I was drowning. Couldn't get no oxygen, and I passed out. And when I came to, I was at the top of the hill in the ambulance. And it was like I was trying to kick the ceiling because I was just fighting for my life. And they're trying to put a ventilator in my mouth. And I just kicking and fighting and everything, and they couldn't get the ventilator in. They thought they were going to have to cut a hole in my throat. And I got one gas fare. They put the ventilator in. Boom, I passed out. And the rest of my family's told me that I can put together. I went into the emergency, and I was 39 years old, and I had a heart attack, 3 strokes, 5 seizures, a deflated lung, and a 3.8 centimeter tumor attached to my heart. And they didn't know what happened to me. I'm only 39 years old. How could this happen to me? They didn't MRI me. The doctor didn't MRI me, and it was like a snowstorm. They told my family I'd be lucky to move my head left to right. I'd probably be paralyzed, blind, and not be able to feed myself. Well, I was an extremist. My family, my friends didn't want to picture me in a wheelchair eating out of a straw. I can't imagine what everybody's going through. Then the doctors came to see my family, said, he has no brain activity, we should take him off life support. And my family decided not to. The universe is very powerful, because 5 weeks later I got the green light. And they didn't want to remove this tumor because they thought it caused another stroke. I've already had 3 of them. But now they got the green light, and they can remove this 3.8 centimeter tumor attached to my heart. So I went into this surgery, and it was a crazy experience. I had an out-of-body experience. The surgery was a success. When I come out of that, they're wheeling me down the hallway, and everybody had shadows over their face. They took me in the ICU. I caught the worst infection you can imagine, a blood infection. And I caught MRSA as well, skin infection. And I usually ran around 190, 195 pounds. Well, I'm down to about 145 pounds, shaking, chills, sweating like crazy. They had the needles up my arm, fighting the infections. I thought I was gone again, fighting for my life. And I survived. I got through the infection. I beat the infection, and I was starting to rebuild myself. And I knew a lot of people in my life, and once people could kind of see me, like, I had all these disabilities going on. I didn't know what they were. You know, I wasn't understanding anything. I couldn't see anybody's face. I had a hard time hearing, processing, understanding. But when people started to come see me, well, everybody felt like they had to tell me stuff. And stuff that's not very nice, right? They're telling me this stuff right in the hospital, and caused this crazy stuff that happened in the hospital with people, my family, people helping me, people trying to manipulate me, people trying to hurt me. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of drama going on in that hospital. But I got good enough from there. I moved to the rehabilitation center. And I got good enough from there. I went to my sister's. And I wasn't there long. I mean, I was a stubborn person. I had my own business. And I just wanted to go back to my old lifestyle. You know, I was like bound bent. I was just doing whatever it was. I mean, I experienced a lot of things in my life. I mean, some of the drama I heard someone broke into my cottage. So I wanted to get down there, and by the time I got down there, yeah, it was broken into. Everything was upside down and backwards. And I started trying to go live my life with all these disabilities I didn't even know I had yet. And life was impossible. It was a nightmare. So I dealt with all this trauma my whole life. I mean, I was even married before, and my wife cheated on me with one of my best friends. So, and then my cottage was broken into. I was molested in my life. There's so many things that happened to me in my life. I'm just like, how am I ever going to separate myself from all this stuff, all this drama, all these disabilities, all this stuff, and be the best version of myself and the best dad, and get away from the currents of my life? Well, I had to bring spirituality into my life, and I had to change my life. I really did. So I started walking in nature. I started listening to The Secret. I started working out. I started hitting the bags. I started eating fish and vegetables. I started doing what I knew what I could do. I mean, I did win the Atlantic Champions for wrestling. I knew if I put that seatbelt on and if I really tried, I might be able to change. I might be able to make myself better. I was trying to do this myself, and I was trying to separate myself from friends and acquaintances and go on my own journey of healing, because nobody understands when someone has a brain injury. Let me explain it to you now that I know that nobody knows. Nobody can tell what's wrong with you when you have a brain injury. You don't look any different, right? But let me tell you, when you've got a brain injury, picture yourself having a leg that's broken in 3 places, but nobody can see it. And every week someone comes by and smacks you in that broken leg with a big stick. You're never going to heal. Well, that's what happens to people with brain injuries. Nobody understands what a brain injury is, so they do their interference, they do their confusion, they do this, not knowing that it's like hitting you in a broken leg with a big stick, right? So everybody's making you worse. So that's why I had to separate myself from friends and acquaintances. Even my family didn't understand. Even I didn't understand. But what I was doing was helping me a little bit. I still didn't know what to do. And then I'm getting into going to the rehabilitation center 3 years later. And it really opened my eyes up. Now, I finally got diagnosed with all my disabilities over 3 years later. And that was an eye-opener, right? Then I could start doing some strategy and tools as I was learning from the rehabilitation center. And I knew what was wrong with me. And I could start working on myself to get myself better. And then I fallen into a huge, bad depression. Well, before that depression happened, I had a young lady that come back into my life that separated me from my friends and my acquaintances, and I fell in love with her. And she was, before I hit the depression, she was giving me peace. I still didn't know. I still didn't make it to the rehabilitation center. I still didn't know all the things that had wrong with me, but at least I had some peace. I had some love, and love helps you heal. But when I got to the rehabilitation center, and I started learning what was wrong with me and learning some strategies and tools, my girlfriend was still with me at that time. And then we ended up separating because she got pregnant. And she went on her journey to her mom's, then went on mine. I was really lost. And it was a real hard time because I fell into this depression. And there was other things that were coming at me that I didn't even realize yet. And I went through these crazy, crazy depressions and these floodings where I would be just bawling, crying, and I didn't even know why. And I kept going to these courses at the rehabilitation center. I was learning more and more, but as time was going on, it was getting worse and worse. And then I ended up going through one of the craziest things that I've ever experienced in my life ever. This depression I was going in was getting worse and worse and worse. And when I hit December, my son was born on December 27th. Amazing. So going through all this depression, then my son's born, which is... His mother did a great job. I was there. I mean, I wasn't my same as what I was when my daughter was born. I was going through a lot of stuff through this depression. But it was like, wow, I had some love in my life, even going through this depression. And it was just amazing because my son was being born on December 27th, 4 years after my accident. When they all thought I was going to die, the day I survived, after I got through the surgery, was December 27th. Then my son was born. 3 or 4 years later. I think it was 4 years later. And, wow, eh? But then after I left that hospital, I fell back in this depression and it was just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Well, I can't even talk about the rest. I've already did one of my speeches, and it'll take a long time. But this was the worst thing that I've ever went through in my life, the worst depression. And by the time I hit June or July, I started getting through it. And this nightmare was over, and now I'm trying to rebuild myself again. Now I know all my disabilities. They said I had prosopagnosia, which is face blindness, where I couldn't see parts of people's faces. I had anomic aphasia, that's the processing and understanding. It's speech, your vocabulary, right? I had a hard time saying words sometimes, and I went through speech therapist and did different things to improve myself. But I'm starting to try to rebuild myself up with the tools and strategies, stuff I got from the rehabilitation center. I got meditation, I got a bunch of different things from them. How to control my anger, different things that really helped me. And now I'm starting to try to rebuild myself, right? And I'm still lost and don't understand myself because the near-death experience kind of evolved me, and I have these sensitivities to things where I'm vulnerable to things. I'm like a radar to people's emotions and stuff. I'm like an empath, even a little stronger. But I didn't realize that at the time. I was still trying to figure myself out. And I got on this journey of healing, and I started using the meditation. Well, I used it when I went through this craziest thing that I went through. It really helped me to find a little bit of balance through a nightmare. But now I don't have the nightmare, so the meditation is really helping me. I'm drinking these shakes that I have, stuff for my brain, like stuff like omega-3 oil, avocado, blueberries, flax oil, MCT oil, apple cider vinegar. These shakes, you know, you just put all the stuff in there for your brain. Like, your brain has a lot of oil in it, right? So you got to put that good fat, that good oil in your brain, and it helps you to heal, right? I use the essential oils, walk in nature, exercise, workout, do yoga, and I started this little job in my garage because I did it before 20 years ago. And I couldn't drive at this time, so I said, you know, I got to find something to do. I got to have a purpose. So, well, I'm on this journey of healing. I find this little job I can do in my garage. And I got my license for growing marijuana. And it was really difficult at first. Really, really difficult. You know, my process and my understanding, my vision was bad. There's a lot of things going on. But as I kept doing it, after month after month after month, I had an overlap vision. So I had like double vision. Well, that went away. My vision was getting better. I actually could see better. I was like, wow. I was telling my mom, I gotta go get my eyes tested because my vision's better. And I felt like I was getting better. Like everything was getting a little bit better. Slowly, but it was getting better. So then I said, I gotta go to the eye doctor. I went and got tested. And when I got my eyes tested, they told me my right eye was good enough to drive. I'm like, woo! They said I would never drive without STEM research. Now I know I have a processing understanding and these other things going on, but that was even getting better. So then I went and took a course at the rehabilitation center. It's $480. They took my reaction time, cognitive test, reaction time. They did a bunch of different tests on me. And they got me to drive with the instructor and the lady from the rehabilitation center in the back. Well, I did great. And they gave me the green light, so I went to my family doctor and she gave me the green light that I could drive. Now, I was living with somebody at that time and he drove with me for a couple of weeks every day, and it was really challenging at first. But neuroplasticity really works. So it helped me when I had my little job in my garage. It actually helped me get better. Now I'm driving and that neuroplasticity is really working. So anything outside the box that you're not used to doing, you're activating your neuroplasticity. And it really works because I've been doing it ever since. And I keep getting better. So now I've been driving for 1 year and 5 months. And I just keep getting better at everything. Now I'm doing these speeches. Well, before, I couldn't do these speeches. I mean, I couldn't even go into a busy place. I'd be running out. Like, I couldn't do these things. So neuroplasticity really works. And then I was going to do a speech. It was my first speech. And there's a lady there. And after I was done, she's like, wow, you must have been doing this for a long time. I said, this is my first one. And then someone called me a cripple. So it kind of put a little fire in my butt. And I started doing these speeches. And I keep getting a little bit better and a little bit better. So never give up. It doesn't matter what's happened to you in your life. It doesn't matter. You can always make things better, right? Be the best version of yourself. And you can't do it by yourself. You need to use strategies and tools. And I'll tell you, I use meditation when I wake up. It's the best because you just wake up. It's the best time because you relax. I meditate. And then after half an hour, I get up and I start doing some stretching. I do some yoga, right? Doing some stretching. Then I do some dancing, right? I do about 15-20 minutes for each thing. I do some dancing, you know, makes you happy, put the music on. Then I hit the bags, hit the heavy bag, hit the double end bag. Then I go lift weights. Then I come in and I make a shake, have a green tea, and I make a shake with all the brain stuff in there to help me with my brain. I take all my vitamins. Vitamins are so important. I take turmeric pills. I take D3. D3 is so important. I put all the stuff in my shake too. You know, I put olive oil. Olive oil is really good for you. I put B12 because I eat a lot of veggies. Veggies are good for you, right? It's good for healing. So you take your B12. I take my aspirin. I take a few different things. You know, it helps to give you energy, right? And I take my CBD drops that helps with anxiety and depression. I take the freezing cold showers. I have a hot shower and have a freezing cold shower. And it activates your nervous system. So, no matter what's happened to your whole life, there's strategies and tools. There's YouTube. Go on YouTube. You can listen to Dr. Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden. You can listen to Sarah Raymond on YouTube for meditation. You can listen to the Wim Hof, the Polish guy. You know, his wife committed suicide and had to take care of 4 kids. And he found breathing techniques that helped him. He was injected with the flu and beat the flu with his breathing techniques. And he loves that freezing cold water because you can't think about your past or your baggage if you're freezing cold. It just doesn't work, right? You can't think about that, things you've experienced in your life, right? You're just thinking about, I'm freezing, right? Get that brain freeze and it just takes away stuff. It really helps me. Now I've been doing this stuff for probably the last year, consistently, but probably for 3 or 4 years with a lot of other things. I just keep bringing things into my life that's going to help me out. So, no matter what's happened in your life, bring a lot of awareness, YouTube, strategies, tools, and never give up. It doesn't matter what you're told, because I was told that I wasn't going to get better. I was told I would get worse, and I'm getting better. Every day I feel like I'm getting a little bit better. So never give up. Give me a call for anything. Give me a call at 902-414-5655 or check out my webpage, www.cameronsteven.ca. And I just want to let you know that it doesn't matter all the things that have happened in my life. I have my 2 beautiful children in my life who I love with all my heart. And I'm on a journey to help people heal, to help people get past their baggage, to overcome all their challenges. Give me a call or check out my webpage. Take care. Cameron Steven.